Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Get Real with Kacey Kasem. It's the podcast that takes a look behind the scenes of the fantasy football industry through interviews with some of the best in the business. On this episode, I was joined by LaQuan Jones, someone you might know from his work with NFL Network and NFL Fantasy, or you might know him from his work with RotoBaller. We had an awesome conversation about how soccer was his first love, how he started playing fantasy football, his favorite Saturday morning cartoons, his fashion sense, the business part of the Fantasy Football Expo, his favorite Rams memory, and much more. Give LaQuan a follow on Twitter/X at RealDealFantasy. You can follow me, Kacey Kasem, at @TheKaceyKasem, and the podcast at GetReal_pod. My content can be found with RotoBaller, Fantasy Six Pack, and South Harmon Fantasy Football. And check out SundayDreamersClub.com for some rad fantasy football inspired t-shirts and sweatshirts. This podcast is a proud member of the DAP Network. And now, here's my chat with LaQuan Jones on Get Real with Kacey Kasem. There's people mowing outside, and as long as they're away from the window, we're okay. So I think we'll be fine. Okay, so I got LQ on the show today. Excited. So excited to have him on the show. Somebody that I've seen just grow in this space. Like, you started off, I remember when you started off and then where you are now. It's just super cool to see. So thank you for coming on the show for sure.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm always happy to jump on pods and, talk football, talk life, whatever we can just catch a vibe and have a good time.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, reaching out to you, I was so excited that you said yes. So thank you. But we're going to
always say yes.
We're going to get to know you, we're going to get to know you on this show. So yeah, starting off, like, when you were growing up, what kind of role did sports play in your life?
Well, some people know, but like soccer's my first love. So I've been playing soccer since I was like 6 years old, like Hamilton Powell days, playing for the local, kids leagues and stuff like that. So like I've always been a competitive, like natured type of guy. And like I just fell in love with soccer, and Manchester United's my team, even though we're looking a little bad right now. But glory, we're going to go get the chip. But it's always just been around my life. And then I think a little bit as I got older, I just, being around your uncles, you see your dad watching football and stuff like that in the living room. And it's like, what are you watching? What team is this? And it just happens to be one of the games that I've watched was the Rams. And I kind of found a new love in sports. Like, I was always too small, and like I've always wanted to play football, but I was always that kid that was getting hurt because he was just smaller than everybody. But it just started there at a young age where it's just like, wow, like I have two loves now. I can't play one, but I love watching it. I love understanding the game. I love getting into heated debates about what team's good and what team's bad, and et cetera, et cetera. But it just kind of started there at a young age, very young age for me.
Yeah, I mean, sports, such a great part of childhood. I know, like, even if you're not that great at sports, it's still like really, I don't know. I just really loved it when I was growing up as well, and watching it. So did you have any favorite players or anybody when you were growing up?
Oh yeah. So Wayne Rooney for soccer, he's literally my model of how I play the game with attitude, and you always show that extra effort. And I take some of those quality things and I apply it to real life. So Wayne Rooney for soccer, football, obviously Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk, Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, like all the greats of that greatest show on turf is when I fell in love with the game. So remembering guys even on the defensive side, like Adam Martuella at the free safety, strong safety. And it's like, I remember these guys because they always were like impactful players. And like, I've always loved how they attacked the game.
And when you were growing up, what did you want to be when you grew up? I have a lot of different answers on this show, and I always like to find out what people wanted to be when they were little.
So I remember young, I used to tell my mom and grandma, I was like, I want to be a lawyer, or I want to be like somebody that drives a Jaguar. I don't know why Jaguar is my choice of car to be like one of my favorite cars, but I always wanted like a 4-screen Jaguar, but that's always coming up. But it was just like, after a while, I kind of wanted to get into designing and like got into automotive technology, and then that kind of fell into where I started molding into liking doing things with my hands, and like that's kind of how I became a mechanic into my adulthood, starting off young, just trying to put things together like Legos. Everybody had Legos, and building skyscrapers to the top and then knocking them down and stuff like that. But that's really where I think that's where my creative nature and stuff came from too, of just always wanting to put things together and work with my hands.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were a creative kid because you're really creative. And so, like, I would assume that you were a creative kid. So it's cool to see that, yeah, you are.
Yeah. I mean, I was the only child for about 14 years, and then my sister came. So, like, as the only kid, you got to be creative and find ways to entertain yourself. And, like, as a 90s baby, I'm very prideful. We had the greatest era of TV, of outdoors and going outside, riding bikes and doing stupid stuff, getting in trouble outside. It's like those were the golden years of society in my life. And I feel like those were the good times of being so creative and why we have so much stuff today.
Yeah. Oh man, you're you're bringing up all the feels right now. Like that
Yeah.
was like the best time ever. Like, oh my gosh, no
Saturday
worries. Just
morning cartoons and eating breakfast
there you
and
go.
oh man, great times.
Saturday morning cartoons. What's your favorite Saturday morning cartoon?
I was a Fox Kids kid, so X-Men, obviously, they're back on TV now. X-Men 97. I was a huge fan of that, like Spider-Man, and like, man, the list goes on, man. So many throwbacks. It's like I just was like in love with everything, like Sonic and Dragon Ball Z and stuff like that. And like those were always the Saturday morning specials.
That's awesome. So, how did you stumble across fantasy football? How did that come into your life?
Wow. So it was one of those things where I was still watching football, but I've only watched Rams games. Like I didn't care about what was going on with the Patriots, and I wasn't caring what the Vikings are doing. It was strictly Rams football. That's it. If the Rams are on TV, which, we rarely get the games in Jersey from a team that's in St. Louis. So when they're in prime time, man, I'm locked in, I'm glued. Or back then, I think I was just watching like television shows, reacting to the game of how we played and taking off, how they did. But after a while, I started working with my buddy Orlando, and now shout out to him. He was like, "Yo, you should join my fantasy league." I'm like, "What is that? Like, what is fantasy? Like, this sounds stupid and like it's gambling and stuff. I don't like gambling my money away and stuff like that." He's like, "No, it's really fun, man. You'll learn more about the game." And I'm like, "Okay, sure." And then I joined the league and I win it. So it's like,
That's how it works.
whoa, this is what this is. And everybody knows when you first play fantasy, it becomes addicting because you're just like, okay, so when's the next draft? Like, dude, you have to wait a year. Like, that's when the next draft. And then you find out there's dynasty, and you're like, oh, okay, we're all year round. I'm all in. And then that's when the leagues start to pile up.
I mean, yep, that's exactly how the story goes. It's so
Exactly.
addicting. So addicting.
Yeah.
So how many leagues are you in now?
So I'm a lot better than I was back then. I tell you that. I'm probably in about, I would say 12 right now. And I'm probably going to join about 2 or 3 more, and I'll be there and set. But back then, we're talking like 25, 30. I think the max I had one year was like 32 maybe. And I was like, all right, this is insane. This needs to stop. Like, I can't physically do this every week. And like, it's constant traffic. And some leagues they ended up dying off. Like, you're not being as active and stuff like that. So you're kind of doing people dirty. So I was like, I got to stop. I got to cut it down. So we're good right now.
We're good right now. They always say that, and then they add like 5, 10 more.
I know.
It happens. It happens. But in that first league that you were ever in, like, can you remember what some of the settings or the rules or the format or anything about that league that you were in when you first started?
My core memory of that was I drafted AJ Green, Julio Jones, and Jeremy Hill. And at that time, I didn't know what I was doing. And I literally, those are the only 3 picks that I really remember that were just like really good picks for me. And my team was just stacked. And I remember it had to be like a regular 1 QB redraft PPR, I think, more or less. It wasn't no premiums or anything like that, but it was just amazing. Like, I was just like, wow, this is that easy. I'm going to keep doing it. And then No, it's not that easy. You just get lucky.
What about Dynasty? How did you stumble across that?
So it was kind of hard for me to get into a dynasty league, honestly. And this is before I actually started making content, trying to get onto Twitter as well, too. It was like, do you know anybody doing dynasty? Do you know anybody? And then I stumbled across this Facebook group, and somebody was just looking for that, like at a what do they call it, an orphan league or whatever.
Mhm.
Like they needed somebody to take over a team. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. I've been looking, and now I found one on some random Facebook group. And then I fell in love with the team building, and like trying to make trades and stuff like that. So that was like really cool to introduce that into what I was already doing with redraft. Because if you would have asked me, like, I feel like redraft kind of still in my heart a little bit better than dynasty, but like I just love fantasy at this point.
And that's a good thing to love. Fantasy is great, and
Yeah.
putting out content is great too. And I know that you do a lot of that. And getting started putting out content, how did that come about? Why did you decide to do it? When were you doing it? How did that go?
So I started doing it about, I think now like 7 years ago. And it really happened because I had these guys that I worked with that were asking me for advice on their leagues. And I'm like, dude, I'm not helping you. I faced you last week. I'm facing you next. Like, no, I'm not helping you. And like, it became to where like I fell in love with watching people make content like the footballers and Nick Arcolano from Big Dogs Gotta Eat. So it kind of just sparked like, okay, wow, I see these guys doing it. And I had people asking me questions, and like some of the information I'm getting from watching content, but some of the stuff I'm actually interested in, like doing my own research and figuring it out, these answers. And it became to where like I had my friends asking me, people at work. So I'm like, yeah, I just need to make a YouTube channel. Like I need to put the information somewhere. If anybody wants to watch it, whatever. Like I've never been a views baby. Like I never cared about it. So it was just like, if you want to hear my thoughts on, at the time, probably like Matt Ryan, his up and down years of cold and high. And I'm like, if you want to hear my thoughts on Matt Ryan, it's on YouTube. Here, send the link to him. And they're like, oh man, yeah, that was good, man. Like, how do you know all this? And I'm like, man, people are watching, people are giving me feedback, and there's obviously areas I need to work on. So like, let's just dive into this, because this feels like it's fun. Like it feels like something I can fall in love with. And like, that's kind of how I am. Like, I'm not going to do anything unless I'm going to actually commit to it, fall in love with it, and not dread it, doing it. So it's like, I started just being consistent, a video every week, and then it became 2 videos, 3 videos, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of how the journey in love like started.
And had you done anything like that before, like put out video content or any of that
No,
kind of stuff?
no, I kind of just jumped in front of a camera and just started talking to myself, essentially, where I was just like, this is weird. Like I've all my first videos ever recorded are still on my YouTube channel, and I keep them there to humble myself of like the growth and the pronunciation, the mannerisms, and the comfortability. Like I've all checked these boxes off at the point to where like, all right, let's start to look at other things that I can improve on. And like, it's so cringy to watch, but it's like, wow, I've never done that before. And I had the confidence to just sit there and put it to the world and not care about what is said or what's about me and stuff. So it's like that was like pretty like crazy for me to do, honestly. Like, I never thought I would do that, but then I did it. It's just like, okay, all right, here we are.
Pretty rad. It's pretty rad. And yeah, you say that your videos are still up. Do you go back? I mean, I know you were talking about going back, but like I'll tell you, I went back and watched some of your older videos just to kind of see what you were talking about. Okay, so I saw, and you are so polished now. Like you were good then, but like the just how you present yourself, like how you speak to the camera, how you talk to the people in your audience is just like night and day different. And so kudos to you, man.
Thank you.
You got it. You got it. You got
Thank you
it.
so much.
It's so awesome to see. And
Yeah,
like I said, like I'd been watching you come up in the space for, for the last few years and
yeah.
to get to where you are now. But when you first started up putting out content, like how did you go about doing that? Like, did you go somewhere? Did you research it? How did you do it?
So a quick funny side story. I reached out to Nick Arcolano. I've told him, I've given his flowers on every platform I possibly can, but it's a true story when I'm asked this. But I reached out to him through email, and I didn't think he was going to respond because at this time he had like 4,000 subscribers. Like he was already on his content journey.
Mhm.
And I reached out to him like, hey man, I'm trying to start a YouTube channel. I really, have been watching. I'm a fan of you. I admire you. Like, I just want to know, how do I get started? And, I'm thinking he's never going to respond. He responds back and he gives me this Amazon list. Like, here's the lighting. Here's the like, camera arm that you need and the microphone. These are just startups. I'm like, dude, what the hell? I'm like, thank you. Like,
Right?
what? Oh my God. I'm like, cool. All right, man. And like, then I was like, all right, I need to find a way to build an audience. Like, where is it conversational? So obviously put my stuff on YouTube. It's doing whatever it's doing. And then I found a lot of Facebook groups that were like fantasy related. And they kind of, you get in and you kind of conversate, go back and forth, start and sit questions. And then I kind of just started creating my own lane where like, I'm going to create the conversation. Then I'm going to put my content in the comments. So it's not like I'm spamming. I'm actually generally trying to get engagement to understand if I'm doing this right, if I'm talking about the right thing, because if I don't know, then you don't know. So that's kind of where I got my start there. I bounced from Facebook. I went to Instagram, made an Instagram just for content, and then I fell upon Twitter. And it's like I was on Twitter before, but I never ever really used Twitter.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like it was there, another social media platform. I'm like, this is stupid. So I kind of like knew some of it, but I didn't know there was a fantasy community whatsoever on Twitter. Like I didn't know they existed. So I just started throwing stuff on there, and then slowly but surely you start meeting people and start conversating and like looking at their content, reading their articles and seeing their podcasts. It's like, wow, we're a community. Like, wow, it wasn't like that where I was at on Facebook, because I was getting bashed like every day, like, take this stupid shit down. No, I'm sorry, take this stupid stuff down. Nobody wants like, Jesus, who did I piss off? Like, okay, I'm just trying to just get feedback. Like, that's what most of my content was back then. It's like, it's not that I feel like strong about this opinion. I honestly want people to give me feedback if I'm doing good or bad, if I know what I'm talking about. That's kind of what it was in the beginning. And it's like, I really just sorry if I'm ruining your day with this post saying that, Aaron Rodgers is declining, or I'm sorry. Like, I don't know.
Also, shout out Nick. I had him on a long time ago, and like he spent like over 2 hours talking with me. So I was like, thank you so much for all the advice. So yeah, shout out Nick. There's your flowers. All right. So growing into a brand, Real Deal Fantasy, and all of that, like obviously that's what we know you. I mean, that's your Twitter handle, all of that.
Yeah.
Like, how did that come about? How did you start getting more people to like come on board with you as well?
I think more so like how I looked at Twitter, well, how I still look at Twitter is like I come into it as myself. Like I kind of want to share, that I'm in love with cranberry juice and tequila. Like I wear loud shirts when it's the weekend and I'm out with the kids and stuff, where I'm having a good time with the boys. Like that's just kind of what I am. Like, I love the grill. I love to just, just have a good time outside and stuff like that. And I kind of bring my personality to my content to Twitter, and like, it was accepted, it was kind of like, wow, like this is the real deal. Like right here, this is what I am, and I just fell in love with the fans community, really. So they kind of helped me build this brand and build this, like, I can't even say persona because it's what I am, like kind of built, this willing to be in this community and just have fun with it.
Yeah, for sure. The community is great, and we'll get more into that, of course.
Yeah.
But let's talk more about like what you're doing now. Like for the people that are listening that don't really know who you are, or even for the people that do, what are you currently doing, and how did you get involved in that?
So right now I'm an editorial researcher for the NFL Network, and I just was working at Tesla at being a mechanic. I was for 3 years, and this is while doing content and still trying to like make my name. And I really feel like I just was like at the point where like I'm not going to really do it unless I start shooting my shot and like applying to places where I could see myself doing fantasy full time or some type of sports media thing. So ended up applying, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. It was just a random Wednesday. applied, and I got the call back. I was really surprised. I'm just like, whoa, is this real? Getting the call back, going through the interview process, it was such a long process, and I couldn't believe that that I was about to move from a small town in New Jersey across the country to Los Angeles to work for the NFL. And like my day to day is like I've worked on shows, Total Access, and NFL Now with Andrew Siciliano, and built these relationships with these hosts and producers and people that I work with. And like you really get to meet some great people. And like right now, I'm blessed with the opportunity to work with Marcus, Grant, and Michael Florio with the NFL Fantasy Podcast. And these guys, man, these are my road dogs, man. Like they took me in like as like under their wing, like without hesitation of just like we have a genuine bond. And like I really like can't believe you find people on the internet and become really good friends in real life. And like it's just an amazing process. So like right now, man, it's the off season. I'm just enjoying my time, working with Florio and Marcus, and just talk the podcast twice a week. The Thursday show Cheat Sheet, and then we do the NFL podcast on Wednesday. I should have said Wednesday before Thursday, but I'm kind of backwards. But you get the point. But it's in a great experience right now. I'm just taking all this in.
Yeah, I mean, that is a lot to take in, but a lot of awesomeness to take in. And those guys are great guys to be working aside, like for sure. Marcus was just on. Awesome dude. So shout out again. Lots of shout outs in this space, I swear. Yeah. For real though. Like when you were first coming up, I know you had mentioned a few of the like podcasts that you were listening to and getting, more involved in listening to podcasts and watching people put out stuff. Was there anybody that you like looked at and were like, that's exactly maybe not exactly, but that's what I want my media to be like. Yeah, your brand to be like.
It could be a mixture of a few people, really. Like it's like I started out watching footballers, and I started watching Nick Arcolano, and then like Fantasy Frenzy, with Pat Mayo and Corey Parsons and stuff like that. And like I kind of wanted to take it all on one ball and make it my own thing. And like I never really had an image of what I'm doing really looks like, because I still don't know what this looks like. I'm still kind of just avenuing like everybody else. And like it was just like I just admired a lot of people in this space coming up, and like there were so many good people that I've come across and worked with. And like the football guys, Joe, he's a great guy, man. And like I've worked with DLF, shout out to Ryan, Scott Fish, those guys, man, they've always been like a great person to have in your corner.
100%. Like those guys, it's super nice to have people that you can reach out to, people that have always had your back. And for the people out there that like admire you, there are people out there that admire you and want to do things like you do and want to put out content and everything. They just don't know, any way to get started or how they should go about things. What kind of advice do you have for the newbies that want to put out content?
I would say you have to be committed and dedicated and want to put the work in. That's always the most important part. Like there's been mornings of where I'm waking up, 6 a.m. to record this quick little 5-minute video and then go to work, for 9 to 10 hours and come home and edit that video to launch it. And it's like, those are the type of sacrifices and type of things you have to do to put the work in to get anywhere. So just be consistent, keep putting the content out. Don't worry about the numbers. The numbers are fake. They don't mean anything. Just keep putting it out, because you never know who's watching. I've experienced this twice in my life of coming up, where I didn't know somebody like Des Bryant was watching my content since 2021. I did not know that. That's how me and him were able to connect, and me staying so consistent and flooding the timelines and just showing that I'm enjoying this and this doesn't look like a dreaded thing. Just keep being consistent. Put the work out. Somebody is listening. You never know who is that can reach out to you and say, hey, man, you're doing something great, man. Let's connect. Let's collab. Let's put ourselves out there, you know, and like start DMing people trying to jump on podcasts. I did that. I was doing that my entire way coming up, DMing people like, hey, maybe we can collab on, you know, a show. Or like I watched your live stream. I like what you're doing. Like this was just me trying to just get my voice out there, my opinions, my face on the screen, just to get the reps. And that's what's really important. So just stay consistent, keep grinding, put your head down. Don't look left, don't look right, who's doing what. Just worry about yourself and just keep on pushing forward.
And yeah, the reps are so important. Like I don't want to go back and watch shit that I did back in the day, but it does help. It does help to go, oh look, I learned how to do this, and oh look, I learned how to do that, and oh shit, I still do that. But it's cool that like you're talking about Des watching your content and everything, and being a fan. And I know I had like a little like light bulb moment where I was like, Jesse Holly, you had him on. And I remember like saying like, you need to have Jesse Holly come on with you, and talking to like athletes for starters. Like what has your experience been like with that? And had you ever like experienced interviewing people before? Or was that like a first time thing for you?
So that was just one of the things I had on the utility belt where I wanted to get my interview craft up, like where I wanted to have people come on my show and I just talk about them. Like I just wanted them to express things that, you know, maybe the general public didn't know. So I just started how I started this show, well, series, I will call it, it's Beyond the Game. And like I started out just reaching out to my favorite, you know, Rams players growing up. And I've started literally from the top of the depth chart to the damn near bottom of the practice squad. I didn't care. Like I've interviewed Isaiah Pete. I interviewed Austin Pettis, Kenny Britt. Like I reached out to Trey Watt, which he's still a really good friend. Like he was just out here last summer in LA. We got drinks downtown. Like I wanted to like hit on that first and then start generally just reaching out to other players and like just build the craft. But how I came about that, I don't know, but like I really feel as though like those connections, those like conversations really helped me too moving forward in the interview process.
Yeah, and then you get to like talk to a lot of people that are big names in the fantasy football space as well, and get to, you know, get your craft even better because you're getting, you know, as you continue. How was reaching out to those type of people?
I was nervous. To be honest. I mean, just like anybody else, you're nervous. And then, you know, when you get the response back, you just kind of like, all right, well, let's lock in. Like you just be upfront. Like I'm nervous, but I want to get you on the show and just to talk. Like, you know, that was like nerve wracking for me to begin with. Like I was just like, oh my God, I can't handle this. Like I'm getting pains in my chest. Like I got Mike Wright on the pod, and no, shout out to you. I think that's how that connection even worked. Like, like that like blew my mind still to this day. And I'm like, man, like that it just shows like the connections you make and the genuine connections you make. You just never know where that, you know, snowballs into. So like, you know, shout out to you. You get a shout out now. You get a big shout out. Shout out.
Thank you. Okay, so also you put out content with RotoBaller as well, a place that I just recently started writing for. So yay! Right. But I'm, you know, really happy to see like your name on there so much and so much of the content that you put out. How did that come about, and what do you do over there exactly?
So Florio was we were just hanging out and he was just asking, it's like, hey, are you doing content for anybody right now? I was like, actually, no, I've actually been chilling for a while. And he's like, hey, you know, they're looking for somebody for the YouTube channel, and I think that would be a good fit. So, you know, I talked to Alex, you know, Uncle Lou, and I talked to Joe, and, you know, they were like, yeah, let's, you know, bring him on and let's give him a shot, and he can just jump into some content. Like they put me on like DSTs. Like now DSTs is something that I've never done before, but I'm never backing down from a challenge. And for me to go into, like, I've actually fell in love with DST content now. So it's like I might start launching my own content. You never know. And soon to be coming out. But I really feel as though like I jumped into that opportunity with 110% of myself, and I love those guys now over there. Like it's really a tight brand over there where like I'm over there just doing content for the YouTube, you know, helping out where I can. Like if they need me to write one day, I'll write. If I need to edit a video, I'll edit it, whatever. Like this landing spot was such a great landing spot for me at RotoBaller.
Hey everyone, Kacey Kasem here. I want to take a moment to tell you about Sunday Dreamers Club. my fantasy football inspired t-shirt store. If you're looking for unique, stylish, and comfortable apparel that showcases your love for fantasy football, look no further than SundayDreamersClub.com. Whether you're gearing up for the next big game, hosting a draft party, or just want to sport some awesome gear, Sunday Dreamers Club has got you covered. With a variety of designs and styles to choose from, there's something for every fantasy football fan out there. Your support means the world to me, and there are so many ways you can help me grow this new small business. Grab a shirt or two for yourself or as a gift for your fantasy football league mates, or you can spread the word to your friends and family. Every bit helps, and I truly appreciate your support. Thanks for listening, and now let's get back to the show. And I'm sure as you've progressed in content creation and putting stuff out, you've seen people that you've kind of, quote unquote, mentored, but yeah, people that you've kind of grown with.
Yeah.
How does it make you feel to see all the other people around you coming up and doing big things too?
It's like one big party. It's the expo. You know what I mean? Like you just see your friends all happy and they're going, they're getting achievements, they're knocking out their goals. Like this is what you want to see because it's definitely, it's like contagious. Like you just get it, you know? And it's like, wow, shout out to Troy, man. When he got that Yahoo gig, I was so happy for him, man. I was like, dude, this is awesome. You were on the map now, bro. Like that's how I was talking to him, you know? And I have that same energy for everybody else, you know, that's in my circle. And it's like, even people that aren't in my circle and I see them winning, like, hey, I'll throw a salute. Yo, shout out to you. Keep grinding, bro. Keep crushing it. You know, that's what it's really about.
I'm talking about the community and like bringing up the expo, like the fantasy football expo for people that are listening that don't know what it is or don't listen to me say it every single podcast. It is so awesome to be able to go to a place where there's so many people that enjoy the same thing that you do that like you don't get in your everyday life.
We can
like,
nerd out.
Nerd out. So like what has your experience been like attending the fantasy football expo?
It's gotten better and better every single time I went. I've gone to 3 so far now. I'm definitely going to be going to my 4th one this summer. And man, like it's the people that come out. It's like you build these strong relationships over the internet for months, and then you finally get to meet. Like that first expo for me, that was the first time I've ever met Troy. And like that's how I knew me and him and his friendship was real, because we just immediately clicked. As soon as we saw each other in person, it wasn't awkward. It was just kind of like, yo, what's up, bro? Like, yeah. Like, you know, playing around and stuff like that. And like, you get to see other people there like, hey, what's going on, man? I've seen your content. It's great to see you here. And you just start connecting, you know, and it's like, it's just an awesome experience. Like I recommend everybody to go. Like if you're listening to this, buy your ticket right now. Buy the hotel, get that flight, drive, whatever, make your way to the expo this summer, because it's like Christmas Day for fantasy. You know what I mean? It's like pre-opening day for football where we all lock in and everybody kind of just do their own thing. But the expo, it kind of reminds us like, all right, we're a community. Like, let's have fun. Let's drink. Let's have a good time. Let's party, you know, and like, it's such a great experience. Like, that's why the expo is a cleanser before we lock in, become psychopaths when it comes to this fantasy football stuff.
That's true. Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
Man. But okay, so you're always such a sharp dressed guy when you're there. Like people,
Stop.
you know. So yeah, are you always looking so fly, or is it just a fantasy football expo kind of thing?
I seriously dress like that with my wife. There's sometimes where she's like, you're really wearing this? Where are we going? Like going to Costco. So what? I want to feel good, look good, you know, like it's Saturday, the sun's out, the weather's good. Throw a loud shirt on, you know, it's just vibes. Like it's more so vibes, you know. I put it on to kind of just feel like, yo, this is the energy I'm coming in with. Let's try to match it. Let's all have fun. Let's be loud, obnoxious, whatever the case may be. Have a great time, man. That's really what the loud shirt is really about. You know, it's not look at me. It's like, this is the energy I'm bringing. Like, let's go.
I definitely have a few shirts that I refer to as my LQ shirts, because they're like, they're so bright and just like out there, you know? So yeah. I'm like, yeah, for sure. And how does it feel to see people embrace that and like come with their own pretty, you know, out there shirts? Pretty wild.
I love it, because it's always a great interaction. When you see somebody with a loud shirt on, it's like, dude, I see you. Yeah, I see you. That's a nice shirt. It might be the ugliest shirt, the most hideous shirt to the regular eye. But if you're a loud shirt member, you're like, yeah, that's a fire shirt. I see what he did there. You know, it's always a great interaction.
It's always a great interaction. I love seeing you guys all dressed in your shirts, and it's great taking photos and doing all that. It is
Yeah.
a great experience. So, besides just like meeting people, are there any other parts of the Fantasy Football Expo that like stood out to you as something that you really liked?
Yeah, there's actually a business part to it, and like I do recommend this. We all have fun. We all get, we all drink and have a good time. Don't get too crazy, because there are some opportunities there. Every time I've went to the expo, every time I've left the expo, I left with an opportunity. So that's why I see this more so as like, if you're trying to make your way into the industry, if you're trying to just have that first step, I think the expo is ground zero where you need to start your foundation of building these connections with other people, just picking people brains, finding out what works, what doesn't work, whatever the case may be. There's a business aspect to this because you could land into an opportunity and it may be a part-time opportunity or a full-time opportunity or just like a little opportunity where you're not getting paid, but you have the platform to write or do video. Like take every opportunity you can, just it's a way to get your foot in the door, basically a cheat code, because you get your face front and center with some of these people that can help you.
Definitely. It's like, friends, but we're also networking, we're making
Yeah.
connections, you're helping each other out. Like that's such a good part of the community is just the helping each other out aspect. I know that
Yeah.
it's been very, very vital for me to have people in this space that I could talk to and go to, and meeting more people like that at the expo is always going to be awesome. So
Yeah.
what about like the Scott Fish Bowl? Have you participated in that? And what
Yeah.
has your experience been like with the Scott Fish Bowl?
I need to win one because
You and
I
me
swear,
both, dude.
I swear I draft my best for the Scott Fish Bowl. I promise you, I'm on my A game where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get my guys. I'm locking it. It's not like I treat any other league less, but it's like, all right, I got to win the Scott Fish Bowl because this is a big platform. There's going to be a lot of eyes, a lot of ears to hear that I won. But every year, I don't know what happens. No waivers, no trades. That's probably what it is, but whatever. But it's a great an event, and it's a big event that I feel like has great purpose for charity. You have to join, man. It's a community that wants to help people who don't have the means, that don't have the help right now. And I feel like
Mhm.
Scott, he's a great guy, a funny guy, man. He has the ability to do these live drafts now where he's bringing people connected before the expo. So it's like, oh man, like the Scott Fish Bowl LA live draft last summer, that was amazing. Like it was cool. Like I've met so many new people that I didn't know actually lived in LA, and like, oh dude, you live over there? Wow, I live over here. Like, oh wow, we could just get drinks. And again, it's just like you just don't know until these events happen. That's why I'm like, man, to get that invite, it's like, all right, woo, we back in it, baby. Another year I could try to win.
Yeah, it's great. And for those that are listening again that don't know what the Scott Fish Bowl is, go to scottfishbowl.com and check it out. Very, very, very awesome. If you're a charity, if you're a person that's into charity and you're into helping others and you're into having a great time, like Scott Fish Bowl, I know this sounds like an ad. Just more people need to get involved in it. Like
Yeah.
I heard about it through a podcast. So if I
Mhm.
can get more people to know what it is, and more power. And Scott is such a
Yeah.
great guy.
I made
So
my friends make a Twitter just so they can try to get invited.
there you
So
go.
I,
Yeah.
I I wanted to expand to my home leagues as well to be involved in the Scott Fish Bowl. So that's really the message there. Like that just tells like how big this is and how important it is to the community.
And the live draft aspect that you brought up is
Oh
such
yeah.
a cool aspect to the whole thing. And like, had you ever done a live draft before the Scott Fish Bowl, or what
Yeah.
was that like?
I used to do like annual live drafts with like a couple of my buddies I grew up with at my house every year, and it's always chaos. Like some of those draft parties are recorded. I mean, you go to my YouTube, you can watch some of them. It's bonkers, but it's pure raw of what home leagues are really are. And that's why I'm just like, I have to record this. Like people won't believe the stories that I have or understand these picks or like believe that Zach Ertz was like third overall one year. Like,
Wow.
people won't believe me unless it's recorded. So like I love live drafts just based on my home league. So like when other people have drafts and they're like, yo, it's live, you want to come? I'm there. I don't care where it's at. I'm there. Like I want to participate. Like I even branched off to another home league I tried to create with all the people that live in New Jersey or close to Central Jersey. I had Joey Pisapia there. I had a couple other guys that were just, not really content creators, but they were involved in fantasy in some type of aspect. So that was great to do. Like, I just love live drafts.
Yeah. I could talk about them for hours, and I'm sure
Yeah.
nobody would want to listen, but I'd want to talk. So yeah, there's so much fun, and getting to be in the Dallas one and run that last year, like, and then getting to do it again this year, it's going to be so much fun. So
Yeah.
looking forward to that, and looking forward to meeting more people that live right down the street that I had no idea. Like you were saying, you had no idea. Like,
Like,
dude,
what?
10 minutes away, we could totally go get a drink sometime.
Yeah.
So that's a super awesome aspect of it as well. And okay, so moving from New Jersey and then moving to LA, like, first of all, how did you have to get adjusted to the time zones? Because that's big.
It was an adjustment, I tell you that, because I've never been to California before. So it was kind of like the furthest I went was Nevada. So Vegas, like, even then when I did go to Vegas, the time adjustment was a little tough for me because it was just like, dude, this is weird. Like, I'm tired, but it's still bright outside. Like, what's happening? Like, but it definitely took some adjustment for my wife and my families. But it was like, man, I really think this is the best time zone over here, man. It just makes sense. I mean, football games end at like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and I can still go grocery shopping after if I wanted to and start cooking dinner. Like, I just think it's better. I'm sorry.
That is ideal. That does sound ideal. I'm
Yeah.
sure my wife would also want me to be done with football by, 6 o'clock or whatever. But yeah.
Exactly.
And then on top of that, like, scheduling guests and going on other people's podcasts, I'm sure that can kind of be hard to do too with the
Yeah.
time zone change.
So a lot, I would say the first year I was here when I was still doing podcasts, it was a lot of mix ups of timing, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. And like, what is central time now? And like, oh my god, like, I know what Eastern it like. It's just a headache, but it's definitely something that I've been able to adjust and get right.
And being out in LA, now you're close to the Rams. I mean, you got, yes, right? It's like, so that's got to be a pretty cool thing to experience.
Yes.
What else have you experienced while you've been out in LA? What are some of your favorite things to get out and do?
So I've lived 30 minutes from the Jersey Shore, and I hated going to the beach. Now I want to go to the beach every day. Like, I can't stop going there on the weekend, to where like I'm a beach guy now. Like, I feel like that's one of the things I frequently have been doing. I mean, obviously the Rams events that I wasn't able to attend, being in New Jersey while they were happening out here, like, that's always great. Like, they just had like a Rams day, like, and it was just like, cool, let's go there. And then they had the Rams draft experience on Hermosa Beach, and I'm like, dude, like, this is amazing. Like, this is exactly where I needed to be. Like, so I basically just been enjoying like those little things, and like I love nature already going into coming here, and like I love going to the parks and taking trail walks and walking to see the sunsets. That's really the type of vibe I'm on. Like, I just walked this morning to the library for nothing, like, whatever. Like, just to have that ability, and I'm just like, okay, yeah.
Walking, I can't walk anywhere around here. I can't even imagine walking to the library.
Oh, I always drive by it, and I'm like, let me see what this looks like.
There you go. So your family, how supportive have they been through this whole journey of you putting out content? And what did they think when you first said that you were going to start doing that kind of stuff?
So my wife, I've been with her since we were juniors in high school, so 15 strong years, and she's been my rock, holding me down while content grinding. And like, she is full blown supportive of this because she knows this is what makes me happy. Like, she knows I really love this, and like, shout out to her. Like, I can't give her enough flowers. It's just like, her to be able to pick up, and because my wife is very close to her family. There's like 60, 70 of them in close proximity of, like, that's how big her family is and how close they are. And to come across the country and to be with me to build this new thing that's out here, you got to salute her a million affinity times, because it's just like, it was an adjustment point to where like, it was just like, we obviously miss our families, but we're obviously out here for a mission, and we're out here to put our kids in a better situation, to give them better opportunities that we grew up that we didn't have. So once, we both like came to that vision, it was just like, okay, we're adjusted. This is the goal. This is the mission. Let's enjoy everything that's here, So the kids, they don't care. They still think my mom lives 2 houses down. Like, oh, let's go see grandma. Well, we have to get on the airplane, and it's expensive right now, and it's a 5.5-hour flight. It's not just up and go. But the kids, they're great. They don't even notice.
That's awesome. Shout out to your wife for sure. I love to shout out the spouses on this show because they really do go through a lot with us and take care of us and make sure we stay grounded and all of that. So shout out spouses. So being a Rams fan in Jersey, like how did that work out for you? Like what was that situation like?
Only awkward situations going to games. I mean, every time, they were able to come to Philly or come up to Jersey to play the Giants or Jets, like I've always wanted to go, or I would go, whatever the case may be, but it just felt so lonely all the time. But I've always been that guy that like, I'm committed to something. I like this. It's me. I don't really care if you like it or not, but whatever. And like, I just was like, yeah, this is my squad. Like nobody could really relate. I know, but when we were bad, everybody made sure I knew we're bad, but I'm still like, no, we got Aaron Donald, we got Michael Brocker, like we're good. Yeah. Like I was going hard for the Rams during that Jeff Fisher era, and like it's just who I am, man. It's just how I've been.
Do you have a favorite memory from a Rams game that you remember watching that was like stands out?
Yeah. So it was my wife's first game, actually. So that's why that was so special, because she's never been to a football game, like a professional football game, never been to an NFL game. And we went to the Giants game. This is when they had Sammy Watkins, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp. That game, we lit up the Giants, and like we were like front and center to see it. And it's like raining, and the score's like 38-7, 42-7. And like, they started leaving at halftime. Like that was such a great moment of like the embrace, because my wife, she's been with me when the Rams were down. So when we started winning and we're up, she was like right with me, like, yeah, let's go. Like
it's awesome.
That was such a great moment right there, because I was just like super hyped we were able to do that.
That is super dope, and to be able to experience that. Yeah. And I know we've talked about what you like doing around LA and all that, being there for the first time and everything. But when you do have free time, people always laugh at this question because they're like, what free time? But when you do have free time, what are some of the things that you enjoy doing with your life?
Going to the park with the kids and just let them run around. Like I just almost sprained my ankle over the weekend playing basketball with my son, who actually legitimately beat me. Like it was 1st to 5, he won.
Oh, man.
He's 7. So I'm like, all right, I'm getting old. I'm kind of washed now. The ankles hurt. But, I just love just going out and just like exploring LA. There's still so much that I haven't seen. Like LA is big. Like there's still like parts of LA that I don't even know exist, or little tour spots that we still haven't seen. Like my wife wanted to go to the Fast and the Furious house. Like we did that last summer. And like there's still other movie like iconic areas we haven't adventured yet. Like we're that couple. Like we went to the Michael Jackson house, where he passed away, and the Beverly Hills Hotel with Whitney Houston. Like we did all that. Like she's crazy like that. Like, why do you want to see this? Like, I'm more so the movie guy. Like,
yeah, I get that. Yeah. I like watching or seeing
like, do you know what that is?
I don't. I know people. I just had a friend that went and ate at a restaurant or whatever. I don't know what the hell.
Look, we're out of the loop.
We don't know. Some TV show on Bravo. I don't know. I don't watch it.
I'm good.
Well, okay. Watching sports with you, watching football in particular. Like if I was to sit down, or one of us was just to chill with you, what is watching football like with you?
So depends on which football.
There we go. Okay.
If the Rams are winning, like I got to be honest with the Rams. I've been kind of more calm, I would say, because I used to be yelling, screaming, and like just like, what are we doing? And then the wife's just sitting there like, oh my God, like wrong. And this is in front of company. Like once I'm locked into a Rams game, that's it. I don't care if your mom's here. I don't care if my grandma's here. Like your brother's here. Like I'm watching the game. I'm screaming and showing my passion. But we've been winning, and we got a ring, so that really calmed me down.
Yeah, that kind of helps. That helps a little bit.
Manchester United, being that the game's a lot more back and forth, fast paced, 90 minutes of just stress, and you and your passion is the game. So you know a guy's playing out of position. You're like, why are you playing out of position? You're screwing us in the middle. Like, that's how I really get into it. So it's going to be an entertaining experience, but you're going to love the ride. You're going to love the ride because you're going to gain the passion too. You're going to be like, dude, yeah, like what is he doing? Like, yeah, exactly.
When you're watching football, do you have like a go-to food or drink that you like to enjoy while you're watching football?
Yeah, Blue Moon with a fresh orange. That'll get me in. Just order some Jersey pizza and we're good to go. I mean, I haven't had Jersey pizza in a while, not as consistent, but that's usually used to be the go-to in the man cave. So it was just like, yeah, six-pack of Blue Moon, fresh orange, and some Jersey pizza. That's a Sunday.
Sounds perfect. It sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Do you watch college football by any chance?
So I've started watching college football actually last year, and my buddy, he's been on me. My guy Alonzo, he's like, yo, man, you got to watch college ball. There's so much you're missing. I'm like, dude, I'll start the prospect analyst and, when it's all over and said and done, when the combine comes around, he's like, no, you have to start. So he's got the YouTube TV and all this other stuff. We share the account. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but we share the account. And I've just been watching. You're like, oh, wow, yeah, this is a little bit more exciting. There's a lot more scoring going on and stuff like that. So I've been catching up.
And then like we just had the draft semi recently, and how do you prepare for that? And then what are you like on draft day? How is that for you?
Draft day, man, it's more so I'm going in prepping with guys that I really like. Like, I'm not too much entertained with the consensus. I want to see some of the other guys that are kind of off the radar that are still up there in conversation. And like, I try to pin them to, I would say, teams that honestly need, what they need. Like Malachi Corley, I was like huge on going to the Jets. I was like, they need a slot guy. They need a young slot guy. They need to get Aaron Rodgers, somebody who's not going to be as mobile. They need somebody who could dump off, and he's a yak king. So I was just like, I fall in love with guys like that, where like there's not many buzz names around him, not many people are talking about it. And it's like when they finally land in a spot, you're like, yes, okay, next. You see a guy like Ray Davis, he landed in a good spot with Buffalo. I'm like, yes, let's go. Like, you really just pick guys that you feel excited about when you're watching them in your process. And like, everybody knows the big three. They're gonna whatever. You guys argue that all day. Whatever. What are the Rams drafting? That's where I jump into that bag. Who are the Rams drafting?
Yeah, I get it. And then when it comes to drafting in fantasy football, do you find yourself maybe with a player on a roster more than most players? Like, is there a certain guy that you're about right now?
Yeah, Joe Mixon. He's just been a guy that I can't quit because he's always been like a running back that gets talked down every offseason, and then he ends up a solid as an RB2 some weeks. And I feel like he's just been a guy I can't quit. I mean, he's always going to be cheaper than, what he should be. So he's one of those guys I will draft every single year.
Is there anybody that you've held on to for too long that maybe is still on your roster and you're like, why? Any of your rosters?
Jameis Winston, man. He's such a good guy, though. Like, you just want to root for him. He's one of those people, like, you feel like if you cut him, like, you let him down. Like, you failed yourself, Like, he's on a lot of my rosters. Like, if you're in a dynasty league with me and you're listening to this, you probably will see Jameis Winston on my roster.
I have him on a few of my rosters too. It feels weird cutting him.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I don't know. I feel unless I really, really have to, but there's always a different guy I can cut. So it's fine. And none of my leagues are good.
So. Always cut the wrong guy though.
Yeah, that's true. Because somebody picks him up right away or whatever. And then you're like, what did I do? That must have been a mistake. I don't know. Whatever. So when you're playing in leagues right now, what's your favorite kind of league to play in? Do you have a specific type or a specific format or rule?
I like best ball right now. It's really been my thing these last 2 seasons where like I can get in a bunch of leagues and I don't really have to worry about managing them. But then I'm in the same token, like taking different strategies into these drafts. Like I could do multiple drafts and it's like, I've been doing like a bunch of like late QB running back builds, lately in these best ball drafts to see how that will reflect in redraft leagues come this summer. Cause I know a lot of these ADPs might be on the rise, once we get closer to camp in August and et cetera, et cetera. But I'm just trying to see where they're at now and the value and like trying to build these teams if I could try to build them for redraft.
And what are your thoughts on trading? Because I know some people like to do it, some people don't like to do it. How do you feel about making, trades for picks, players, whatever? Are you
I'm not a
cool
big
now?
trade guy. I'm more so I address my issues at the draft. I'm going to draft well. Like I'm not trying to trade because there's so many people. Like I've been in so many leagues where people try to get over on you, and it's like, really? Come on, bro. Like, this is a bad trade. And it just becomes exhausting. It's like your inbox fills and it's just, dude, leave me alone. I don't want to trade with you. Like, I'm not the person to trade. Like, if I do end up trading, because I do trade in leagues, let me be honest. I do trade in leagues, but like, it's not as frequent. I'll probably do one a year, like if that. And I just feel like, I feel like most leagues, they're always trying to get over you. And who you're playing with after so many seasons. It's like, dude, you tried to get me last year. Like, why would I trade you this season? Like, stop. And I watched you snake somebody else. And I'm not about to be a victim either. No.
Yeah. I've been snaked too many times. I don't it's like you learn. But I don't think some of those people even know that the trades that they're offering are bad. I think they legit think they're good, and that's fine. That's fine because we all have our different. But like, yeah, I'm not gonna. We're not gonna do that. So I totally get it on that. And plus, like redraft, you don't see a lot of trading going on in redraft leagues anyway. Which,
well, you should jump into my home league.
My
home league.
Gosh. Okay. Yeah. I say that
literally after the draft is over. It's like, dude, what are you doing?
Oh man. Okay. That sounds interesting. All right. I see you there. I guess I should say that none of the redraft leagues I'm ever in. Yeah. I'm gonna sit over here and pout about it.
They're very active. Shout out to the home leagues. It's called cutthroat season because that's exactly what it is. And it's like, it's literally dudes that I've literally grown up with since like probably third grade. And like, we're all still playing fantasy with some additions from guys that we met through the years. But like the core 8 is like every year we're just chaos, like recorded phone calls of the snaking. Like I'll retweet that for its annual. It's coming up. Like one of my buddies recorded my other buddy in a snake trade that he knew was snake. And he just was like, this is content. And he sent it to the group chat. It was just like, oh my God, this is great.
Wow. This is when fantasy football just gets a little out of control. Are you a trash talking kind of guy in your leagues?
Yeah. Every week. I'm on you. As soon as I find out I'm playing you the very next week, I'm like, oh, you're on deck. You're ready. And I'm just trash talking. That's what keeps leagues entertaining. Like, there's no friends in fantasy football when it is time to go time. That's just how I look at it amongst my friends, obviously.
Yeah. No, I look at it like that too. And usually my trash talk doesn't really work out for me in the long run. And I'm like, eating my words.
I'm like, all right, whatever.
I didn't know he was going to get injured in the first quarter. Exactly. Right.
I always come up with an excuse like that dude is injured. He's bad anyway. Like, whatever.
Do you play any other kinds of fantasy sports, or is football your only one?
Football's my only one. I've tried basketball and man, that was a disaster. Like I just didn't know what I was doing and too many lineup adjustments and trying to follow the news and who's playing, who's not. It was a contract here. And I can't add it, like can't do it. I've always been curious about fantasy soccer though. Like I've never come across somebody that was advertising a league or like that. I would be interested to try that, like maybe one day.
Yeah, I always get fantasy football, like I get all the soccer stuff. I'm like, that's not what I was searching for, but that's cool. Not the same. It exists. It's just, you got to go looking for it. So totally. Well, let me think. I wanted to make sure that I touched on everything before we went ahead and said goodbye, which it's really making me sad because, getting to know you has been really cool. And like I said, like appreciate your work. To see you grow so much has been awesome. But is there anything else that you want to like leave the listeners with before I let you plug all your stuff?
Man, I mean, to the listeners, to the new content creators, man, keep going. just keep putting the content out, man. Keep grinding, and don't worry about the numbers, and feel confident in what you're putting out. Take the time to perfect your craft, sharpen that sword. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. Don't be afraid to look at somebody else's content, to look at it like, hey man, I really like what he's doing. Let me reach out to him or her to see what I can do to help myself to be able to do X, Y, and Z.
That's awesome advice. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. You want to go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you and your content one more time?
Yeah, you guys can find me at Real Deal Fantasy, basically on all social media platforms. You might find me on MySpace, Tumblr, like all. Nah, I'm kidding, but you can find me literally everywhere, man. Real Deal Fantasy, and just check out my shows over there on RotoBaller, and then check out my stuff on NFL Fantasy with Marcus and Florio, obviously Wednesdays and Thursdays, and come out, hang out, and have a vibe.
Have a vibe for sure. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show again, and thank you so much. It's been a pleasure getting to talk to you. I'm sure everybody that's listening is excited to get to know you a little bit more. So thank you again. And everybody, I know I'm going to be putting these out all sporadically. So come back next week, tomorrow, I don't know, but come back one of these days for another episode of Get Real with Kacey Kasem. And remember to stay rad.
Be seeing you.
Yeah, I hope not sporadically.